and provision. It's been a very, very interesting 11 months in Nigeria, in Osun State, and it's just I'm speechless again.
Speechless.
Yes, but I'm happy to see the first day of the last month of the year, and we pray that it brings very good things, very beautiful things for us and for all of our viewers who have joined us this morning, and by extension, every person who is a Nigerian citizen and everybody in the world.
All right, so good morning. Femi Olanikwekun is my name. It's a pleasure to welcome you on board Morning Spring this lovely morning, Thursday. It's the first day of December 2022. We're so happy to have you join us on the show. And like Emmanuel said, we pray and hope for the very best this month is God on offer. Femi Olanikwekun is my name. Do remember to check us out on all of our social media handles, Western Spring Television on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. But that Twitter handle is actually WSTV_NG. And on YouTube is Western Spring Television. And do remember to click on the subscribe button when you watch us live on YouTube. Thank you so much for linking up with us this morning.
Well, thank you very much. We'll go straight into the first segment of the program, and that's the newspaper review, where we'll bring you headlines, we'll bring you stories making the rounds, stories that are trending in Nigeria.
Okay, so we'll be back after this break, then, so we'll give you the papers. All right, so let's start with the Punch newspaper then. The banner headlines about fuel scarcity, and it's spreading. It's a very, very challenging period for most Nigerians. Fuel scarcity, no planned price hike, says FG. Queues spread with the riders. There will not be fuel price hike during Yuletide period, says government. NMDPRA assures motorists current stock can last for 34 days. Government can't continue subsidy amid diversion, NNPC source. So there's not going to be any fuel price hike, that's from government. But what's responsible for these queues and scarcity of petrol?
Well, I think that marketers have yet to come to a unity of faith, as they say in Christianity, but they've yet to come to an agreement, because we've been reading that some of them buy at 205, 210, at the ex-depot price, and of course they want to maximize their profit, factoring other factors of production like transportation, cost of delivery, and all of that. So if the federal government is saying they do not plan to hike any prices, it is now left for us to see how the marketers would follow that. But the queues are basically because people are panic buying. And of course, you have little stock. I'm surprised that the NMDPRA is saying stock can last for 34 days. So what happens after 34 days?
But, if it can last us that long, so why are we experiencing the queues now?
Because people have little or no faith in the government. When the government says something, it is likely that the next day you hear something different. So nobody wants to be caught unaware.
But if you pump the fuel into, you have off filling stations selling, I'm not sure the queue will be this long, because there are some filling stations that are shut down, perhaps because they can't buy at regular rates, so when they buy, they need to sell at some exorbitant prices. But I understand what you're saying, that people are going to where the queues are because that's where it's cheap.
Yes.
So the queues are long. This morning again coming, I've noticed queues in some filling stations as early as 6 a.m. A friend told me yesterday that he went out very early in the morning and he saw queues of almost 1 kilometer in this part of Osogbo as early as 5 a.m. So imagine lost man hours. And at that time, the filling station had not even opened, but the people were waiting and queuing there for them to get killed at a far, at a reduced rate. It's also disturbing.
And you can also see the NNPC saying that government cannot continue subsidy amid diversion. And I think that's also the problem. That's why we have queues. Some people divert some of these products, so they don't even get to the filling stations in the first place. Maybe a filling station is expecting 33,000 liters, and at the end of the day, after all the cuts and cuts, you get just 10,000 liters. It's disheartening, and of course, it's leading to queues.
It's really a difficult situation for Nigeria and Nigerians. The question and debate around subsidy removal is such a very hot, emotional, and divisive one in Nigeria. But part of why we keep experiencing diversion is because the price of petrol is higher in neighboring countries surrounding Nigeria. and it's far, far cheaper here. So you can actually get, you know, the delivery of petrol to sell, and then you divert it to Benin Republic or to Niger Republic or even to Cameroon, because you get your margins is like ×3 or ×4. So that's why some people have said we need to remove the subsidy so that we sell around the same level. If you do that, you know, what about the attendance increase, the multiplier effect on the Nigerian economy and the average Nigerian as well? We do hope that we get a hang over these and things move better for us. But just beside the nameplate, Don's back FG policy on mother tongue teaching. We seem to, I mean, the plan here, according to the Minister of Education, is to have a primary school pupils taught in their mother tongue. But how do we manage with over 600 languages that we have in Nigeria? How do we go about that?
And that's where the problem is. Sometimes when we want to copy policies, we forget that we are a diverse people.
Multi-ethnic.
Yes, we do not have the same, there's no uniform language, there's no uniformity. So if you teach someone in Hausa, you teach someone mathematics in Hausa at the primary school level, and he has to come to the south for tertiary institution, tertiary education or secondary education, there's a big problem, because he definitely has to unlearn and then relearn some of the things he has learned. Well, if we had a uniform language, it would have been easier, except you're confining people now to their regions and saying you can't leave your region.
Yeah, so the minister also gave an explanation as to why we are considering this. He said it's been discovered that most of our local languages are going into extinction because people are not speaking it again. So it has its positives if we're only able to work out the modalities as such that some major languages do not dominate over the others because of the minorities. I've seen paper, I know there are different positions before now. Former Minister of Education, Babs Fafungwa, at some point recommended this, that should be, that actually the children or kids at that age will learn better with their local language. And we've seen it also in some other parts of the world, in China, in Japan, in South Korea, you know, stuff like that. So if we work out the modalities well to determine how we do it in states like Niger, where you speak different languages, perhaps per local government. In states like Edo, for instance, where you have different languages in different areas. So how do you balance that? So we need to work it out such that some people do not feel slighted. Some people do not feel like this is also another way of colonizing them or imposing another language on them. But
then what happens to people from other tribes who are living in a particular area?
So I mean, I remember that if you are Igbo, when I was in secondary school, some of my Igbo friends who were schooling here, who, you know, out of their own volition, had to take Yoruba language. And some of them actually even passed, you know, the exam.
I had a B in my WAEC in Yoruba.
Oh, interesting. So you qualify as a Yoruba man, in fact. But I mean, we should be able to work it out. It's a good policy if it's about ensuring that our local languages do not go into extinction.
Of course, commendable one there.
Yes. So just above the nameplate, INEC gears up for elections in Northeast, deploys beavers. Government pays ASU November salary, withholds arrears. Okay, that's as they say, you know, the storm sort of gathering there. And FG blames governors for rising poverty, Edo, Akwa Ibom, Difa. So there's a common, you know, fact, or, you know, a common thread of the Nigerian politics about buck passing. So who is responsible for the rising rate of poverty in Nigeria, the federal government or the subnational government?
Well, I would say the subnational government, because that's your immediate constituency, as they say in legislature. That's your immediate government. That's you're responsible directly for them. They don't have any interactions with the federal government. Again, it speaks to the fact that the local government administration has been crippled. You know, if that were not the case, then the people at the grassroots will not have any problems, because the local government is closest to them, and if it's functional, then some of their needs will be taken care of. Social welfare, social infrastructure at that level. Of course, when you have a functional local government, you would have a very robust society, a community. But the fact is, the state governments have their legs on the necks of the local government. And so by doing that, you make the people cross a large gap before they can get to the state government.
I think it's even ignorance on the part of the state governors and the state government, because if you empower the local government, do the proper oversight in ensuring that they do not mismanage the funds, because that's the fears of some people. But if you allow the local government to function very well, you know, you have less problems to face at the state level. So what happens now is everybody gravitates towards the state, you know, because that's where the politicians are, because there's nothing happening at the local government. I remember back in the days that a number of persons who ordinarily now are going to the state secretariat, the state, you know, house to meet politicians, to want to see the governor, see the commissioner, ordinarily hang around the local government headquarters. But because that part of our government system has been crippled, like you said, so there's more pressure now on the state. So I think it's ignorance on their part. If you allow this, then it reduces your burden in a way. But I think you use the right word, putting their legs on the neck of the local government. We do hope that changes also. Adeleke Aleji is also government vehicles missing, issues ultimatum. Okay, that's another.
Yes,
Oshun has been very interesting. Almost every day we have one matter, but I think it's normal because it's a new government, so there'll be lots of
different parties.
Yes, so we'll likely talk about that also on the program this morning. We'll be getting to hear what exactly was taken away, what exactly was is missing from the government lodges. Ondo hunter mistakes man for antelope, shoots him dead. This is bizarre.
Very sad one there, coming at a time where we've been hearing people shooting each other dead in the name of trying out certain charms and all of that.
But this one, he actually mistook him for an antelope. How do you mistake a man for an antelope?
There are no antlers on the person's head. He's probably standing. Maybe he was squatting. Even if he was squatting.
So you are not a hunter, so you may not know.
I may not know.
You may not understand how it's so sad and bizarre.
It's sad. You can't
okay, so the final one on the Punch news about this morning is about the First Lady, Aisha Buhari, Twitter critic remanded in prison. We talked about this a bit yesterday, but this is sad and shameful.
And that's what's trending now on social media. A lot of people are calling out the First Lady and asking her to at least, even if you don't have a thick skin, learn to ignore. People will say different things. You're in position of power. You put yourself there.
I mean, honestly, if you do not like the heat, then you don't move close to the kitchen.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, if we were to look at some of the most insulted persons in the world, I think Donald Trump would top the list.
Donald Trump.
But he has a way of giving it back to his haters. If you say one, he says 10. If you go low, he goes lower.
Not using state,
yes, apparatus to intimidate and be vindictive. It's really shameful, and the First Lady should be doing better. They refer to her as the mother of the nation. Mothers shouldn't behave like that.
And even the state agencies also should have some level of independence. They don't just get involved in every issue like that.
Issue, yes.
This is quite
just
sad.
About a month or two ago, some persons were involved in beating up some persons on the order of the VIP they were protecting. It's shameful that we've gotten to that level from our security agencies.
So that's it about the Punch newspaper, Emmanuel.
Yeah, so move on to the Nation newspaper this morning. The Nation newspaper, below the nameplate, before the banner headline, "Why Ondo should vote for me" by Atiku. Oshun Assembly, there's Adeleke. Very interesting one that we spoke about yesterday. The Assembly declaring status quo on some of the issues that the governor had issued an executive order on, and it's interesting to see how that plays out.
I mean, so it's a conflict. So the governor has been reversing since he came. The Assembly is saying we maintain status quo. They initially asked the status quo be maintained on the name or on the anthem of the state, and they're asking the status quo be maintained on the local government also. The courts will decide eventually. So when two elephants, in this case, the executive and legislature, are fighting, the judiciary will intervene and decide the matter.
And let's hope that the grass hasn't suffered too much before intervention comes. Now, the banner headline on the Nation newspaper: Minister states to blame for rising poverty hardship. The writer there says governors building airports, flyovers, investing in projects with no economic impact. There's this thing about legacy projects that state governors do. They want to do something.
What manner of legacy?
I don't understand it. You want to build a massive bridge and name it after someone, so that when they say the next thing, they say this bridge was built by this person. with no socioeconomic impact at all.
I mean, so the particular reference to airport is somewhat, I don't know what's the craze of Nigerian governors with airports. You know, sometimes you have roads that are bad.
Leading up to the airport.
Leading up to even to the airport. And then you have roads in the state. Because the money you spend on building the airports will take care of a number of kilometers of roads. And I mean, the airport it will be for the elite, maybe some part of the middle class. But majority of the people perhaps will do well, except you have a better plan to make the airport an economic zone that comes back to benefit the state. But if it's just for you to satisfy the few elites, I think it's shameful. I don't know. I mean, Ekirise just built an airport by me before he left. But there is an airport in Akure that barely gets the required traffic. So why not fix the road to Akure from Ado-Ekiti to Akure? You know, so that people can make use of that one. Maybe when the state is better, economically viable, we can look at, because the traffic even in Akure is not what it should be. You know, so then you build another one at Ado-Ekiti. I'm not sure, aside the inaugural flight, I'm not sure there's been any other flights going into that airport again.
If you would build an airport, your state has to be an economic hub.
Yeah.
That has inflow and outflow
the
of
traffic
and all
humans
of that.
and planes and whatever.
It's quite befuddling that governors don't. I wonder what their special advisors and senior special assistants do.
Most governors are their own advisors. They determine, you know, if you take your advice or not. Your own is to advise me. I decide if I take your advice or not.
Well, it shouldn't be at the expense of the people, the government. The people who voted you in deserve better from you, governors. Now, below that story, Wike takes on governor over derivation payments. Wike takes on governor over derivation payments. That was in the news about 2 weeks ago, where Wike was calling on the Niger Delta governors to come and account for the 13% derivation that they get from the federal government.
It's put many of them in some form of trouble. So they've been doing, as we say on Twitter, chalaye.
Yes.
You know, they've been chalayeing since this matter came up. I mean, so I also think that Wike has, you know, is an ulterior motive, you know, as a game is playing. But it's also good for transparency. Put them, you know, on the spot. Let them explain how they spend the money. So if you receive that much, you did not tell the people before now. You should be questioned. You should be asked questions. I mean, so leave the messenger here. Let's focus on the message. Yes.
But then you must, like you said, you must also ask Wike why he's speaking now.
You know,
at the twilight of his administration.
And so, I think Okowa will take the heat more from these. So apparently Wike is not friends with Okowa and Atiku. And so you expect who is the target of these outbursts. All
right, Oshomole, PDP House divided against itself. Atiku party rattled in states. That's coming from former Edo Governor Adams Oshomole. Just at the bottom of the newspaper, Lagos doctor remanded over rape. And mother beheads daughter. I saw that story last night and I was shocked. 11 months old daughter was beheaded by mother for alleged disturbance. You know, I don't know, maybe as the Yorubas would say, it could be AD or something.
I mean, so that's the second of such stories I'm getting in like 2 months. There was a story somewhere in the East, being Imo, of one guy who beat his baby, you know, maybe 2 or 3 months, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I mean,
medium of instruction, we've talked about that. INEC, PVC mandatory for voting in 2023 general election.
As it should be.
Tinubu for Chatham House talks on security, economy. Abdulrazak takes 189.4 billion naira budget estimate to assembly. Abdulrahman of Kwara State there are taking that 189.4 billion naira budget estimate to the assembly. Surprisingly, this morning there is no talk of pardon from both the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs.
We need to take a break. We need to rest from that for some time. Perhaps we get more next week about pardon. But I mean, that Chatham House, remember in 2014, so Chatham House, Buhari also went to Chatham House 2014, 2015. So Tinubu is going to Chatham House again to explain, we talk about security and economy. Okay, so let's move on to the next paper, shall we? We go now to the Guardian newspaper. NGF, that's the banner headline here. NGF mom as FG shifts blame for high poverty to governors. NGF mom as FG shifts blame for high poverty to governors. So the rider, Agba, as a minister, said they build They rather build flyovers, skyscrapers, but live a fight against hunger. That's a bitter truth. Some people will say Sokoto has the highest number of poor people, followed by Bayelsa. Yahaya, governors committed to improving livelihood of rural dwellers. Rising inflation, falling wages increase poverty, social unrest, says ILO. I think some bitter truth there from the minister, Clement Agba, saying that they rather build flyover. We've had number of flyovers commissioned, even here in Osun, in Rivers, in flyovers.
Rivers, I don't know if it's trying to create a world record.
Yeah.
Building flyovers.
He said by February, or they would have commissioned this the 13th. Or
to what end?
So you ask for, the priority, the importance, and perhaps you measure the impact of those flyovers on the economy. So the minister here seems to be saying, we need to do some other things also, not just only flyovers, and maybe some of those monies also need, because, experts have said again and again that the best way to fight poverty is by investing not only in infrastructure, but in health and education. When you educate the people, you've given them a passport or a ticket out of poverty, to get into a better life. When they have good access to health, you've given them some, lift over poverty. These are very critical things, and providing the better environment and, economic, I don't know, but I mean, we focus sometimes on mundane things. So the airports, for instance, that we talked about the other time, how many, citizens of your state or residents of your state will get to use the airport?
How many can afford
How many can afford, to board a plane from one location to the other? Majority for their lifetime will apply the roads. So why not fix the roads and ensure that schools are also, okay, I think misplaced priorities. And, you also get disturbed by the fact that Bayelsa, an oil-producing state, with a fewer number of people living in the state, at about 8 local governments, is the second state with the highest number of poor people. How do you explain that? How? I'm asking you, Emmanuel.
Because I'm from the Niger Delta, and I've lived there for a while, and I've seen how, resources are mismanaged. They are misdirected. They are used for self-aggrandizement, and it's disheartening because these same persons they ride into power on promises, and then they get there, they see what's there, and they just don't want to do the right thing. It's very disturbing.
It is.
And if you have just very few people living in your state, you should be amongst the best states, with people doing well. You shouldn't be the second with the highest number of second highest number of poor people. We can understand. We may want to understand Sokoto, because of the fact that they are landlocked and you have a large population. But Bayelsa, you have access to the riverine areas. You have access to oil. You have access to air and land traffic all over the place. And there's a problem. The problem is that the governors don't know what to do with the money. That's just the truth. Or they know and they don't want to do it. It's one of the two.
I mean, they rather focus on mundane things that do not have direct bearing on their citizens and residents.
The craze to write their name in the sands of time. I don't know what sand.
Sand that the wind will come and blow away.
The same thing was what Governor Akeredolu said when he came to commission the bridge at Olaya. You've written your name in the books of history, the sands of time. I mean, people there are no drugs in hospitals. Healthcare centers don't have anti-malaria drugs. And you have what sands of time? It's not fair, really.
Well, so let's move on quickly. Some of the other stories. So today is December 1, and it's also World AIDS Day. So the Guardian has a story about that AIDS Day, end to infection by 2030. As 1.8 million Nigerians live with HIV.
That explains why Lagos State Governor is campaigning with condoms, his pictures.
I think you had that on your trend yesterday. Okay, just below the nameplate, I have fears about possible outcome of 2023 poll, says Jega. That's a former INEC chairman talking there. Court dismisses suit seeking disqualification of LP presidential candidate Obi. Oyetola appointees left with official vehicles. Others Adeleke reveals, and Sanwo-Olu at campaign promise better tomorrow. That's that on the Guardian newspaper.
Well, very quickly, we'll move on to the Daily Trust newspaper. Below the nameplate, we'd like to remind you again, still in captivity, 11 schoolgirls of FGC Benin Yari, 533 days. One student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, 506 days. And then the banner headline says, election violence claims 1,525 lives in 25 years. Boko Haram IPOB bandits, biggest threat to 2023 polls. That's according to a report. Politicians' excesses pose risk to elections. That's coming from an analyst. And just right there, you can see the breakdown of security threats to 2023 general elections. You can see the graphics there, bandits, Boko Haram, and all of the other issues. And then below that story, governors abandoning rural areas, building needless flyovers, airports. That's the federal government. And teams in Kaduna. We must commend our troops there for the fight against terrorism in the Northeast Theater. Kerosene hits 1,000 naira per litre as food prices soar. Well, kerosene used to be the resort of the common man, you know.
I mean, so that was what we used growing up. So it appears it's gone way beyond the reach of the common man. I see a lot of people going for charcoal. I'm seeing people who live, you know, the lower rung of the ladder going for charcoal. Some of them firewood. Firewood, it has a direct implication in environment, depletion, you know, of our rainforest. Some of these things are interconnected.
Yes.
But it seems our leaders do not get to see the connecting, you know, you are unable to connect the dots.
Perhaps because it doesn't really affect them.
So, I mean, how do you expect someone who earns 30,000 naira, I mean, if that's the minimum wage, or 18,000 naira as you like, 1,000 naira per liter of petrol, would that 1 liter cook beans from start to finish?
Beans is even far-fetched. You know, boiling rice yeah, and we know the average number of children people have is 3, 4 children. Boiling rice for them, you know, heating water because of this period to have their bath.
I mean, you need to prioritize.
Those things are just...
You won't want to eat water with 1,000
and then that leaves your children at the risk of cold-induced health issues. And government need to do better. Now, only 33 rapists convicted for over 11,000 cases coming from the federal government. That's a little bit shocking. From 11,000 cases, just 33 rapists convicted. That's coming from the federal government. Now, above the banner headline, PDP, APC, Bika over arraignment of ex-minister Bilbis. Pupils to be taught in mother tongue, that's the federal government. And students who criticized Aisha Buhari remanded in prison. CUP, that's the coalition of political parties, demands his unconditional release.
As it should be. I mean, it's unfortunate that because you criticize the First Lady. And then you cast your mind back to what happened in 2014, 2015. You remember the level of, you know.
There were animations, there were
all manner of things. I'm not sure people were arrested then, so we shouldn't go. And then these also has a way of affecting perception. The First Lady, in fairness, had a fairly good image to the ordinary people. We felt that I was always speaking on their behalf before things, you know, changed. Maybe she got what she wanted, or maybe or should I said to keep quiet. But remember, there was a time that she was even challenging some of her husband's appointees, you know, and then
making an issue with the Mama Daura family.
Yes, we shouldn't, you know, descend to this. So this is a law. We do hope that reason prevails, and the poor student who's supposed to start writing exams on Monday, you know, is released on time.
All right, we hope that the right thing is done there. That's the much we can take on our newspaper review segment of the program this morning. We hope we will be bringing you the interview segment shortly. Remember to follow us on our social media handles at Western Spring Television on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter it's at WSTV_NG. When we return from this break, we'll be taking our first guest on Morning Spring this morning.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewe,
And your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.
Bẹ́gùn ọba jáde mọ̀rìnwó la kọ́kọ́ rí ọwọ́ gẹ́gẹ́ ní síwájú ìjó ẹsẹ̀ katakata ní síwájú rìn bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ń gbúrò wa a tún ti dé náà nù ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò Owambe Unlimited pẹ̀lú èmi ọmọ yín olólùfẹ́ yín ọ̀rẹ́ yín Suliat tẹ́túmọ̀ sí Morenikeji ẹ lè pè mí ní Susu tó bá wẹ̀ lómi a sọ pé ìyálòde àríyá gbogbo orúkọ tẹ́ ẹ bá pè mí kò sí èyí tí mi ò ní jẹ yín ẹ farabalẹ̀ kẹ́ ẹ máa gbádùn ètò Owambe Unlimited lórí ìkànnì Western Spring Television ní ìkànnì 190 ibẹ̀ ni Owambe Unlimited ń bọ̀ wá ẹ fàpùrẹ̀ tẹ̀dí kẹ́ ẹ máa gbádùn ètò àríyá wa.
Wọ́n sọ fún yín pé ẹ máa wo Owambe Unlimited lórí Western Spring Television.
Èdè Yorùbá jẹ́ ọ̀kan lára àwọn èdè tí wọ́n ń sọ ní agbègbè Niger Congo. Èdè Yorùbá gbajúgbajà ní àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè tó ń bẹ ní ẹkùn ìwọ̀ oòrùn ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀. Ó kéré tán, àwọn ènìyàn bíi mílíọ̀nù 14 ló ń sọ èdè Yorùbá lónìí. Ètò akọ́mọlédè ló ń dé sójú ìwòran yín láti iléeṣẹ́ móhùnmáwòrán WSTV ìkànnì 150 channel 190 lórí Star Times. Folúṣọ́ aya Olúwagbémiga ìyá ìjọ pèdèpèdè ìyá akọ́mọlédè ló kọ tèmi. Yorùbá dùn púpọ̀, Yorùbá ò lè kú, Yorùbá ò lè parun. Tiwa làṣà, tiwa lèdè, tiwa nìṣẹ̀ṣe akọ́mọlédè.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Evelyn Ohiole, King Eve. How are you today?
I'm good, I'm fine, I'm alive.
I really feel like she's not giving the right answer to the question. When one asks you, how are you? And you said, you're saying, I'm alive. It's very annoying, seriously. How are you? I'm fine. I feel I'm fine will be the right answer instead of I'm alive. Not that I asked you if you're dead before.
Go and check all these 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, everybody, they are extraordinarily sexually active.
I feel is being unnecessarily hyper when it comes to the issue of sex, because we talk about other topics and it feels so reserved. It really doesn't have anything much to say when it comes to other stuff. But when it's the issue of sex, I believe he's being unnecessarily hyper. That's when I have to pick an issue with him. I mean, it's just been unnecessarily there when we're talking about sex. Just like a child, his mom just got him his favorite chocolate or ice cream, very happy, doing as though if he doesn't have sex for a day, he's going to die.
When it comes to finance, women also support their husbands financially. You need me emotionally. You need me spiritually.
Cassie is an amazing person, but I hate the too much attachment to that gender. I need you spiritually, I need you mentally. I can get these things anywhere with money. If you go by the topic was, who does marriage favors the most? I mean, you know how many jobless women they marry every Saturday? They are saying it favors you, favor. Are they vex so?
Growing up, when I was in the world, we've heard of
Who are you now?
Well, MC Too Much said, he likes saying when I was in the world. And the last time I checked, well, it looks a bit innocent, facially, but deep down, is actually out of this world. We're all in the world now. As long as you're alive, you're in the world. So, MC Too Much, I beg when you talk about that. I don't want to hear that. Next time you talk about I kiss my ass.
Thank you so much for staying with us. It's on to Morning Spring, and it's reaching you from Western Spring Television. You can check us out on Startimes, DTT channel 190, and also do well to check us on all of our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, the Western Spring Television. Twitter is actually WSTV_NG. And on YouTube, you can watch us live at Western Spring Television, and do well to subscribe when you check out our YouTube channel. We have a guest joining us in the studio this morning, the Director of Publicity of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Mr. Oladele Bamiji. Thank you so much for joining us on Morning Spring.
Good morning, Mr. Femi.
Thank you.
Good morning, Western Spring Television.
Thank you.
Family, it's a wonderful education.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But so, you know, a lot has been happening since your party came into power on Sunday. Executive orders, directives, some of them, you know, getting reactions from the now opposition. But one yesterday got many people talking. It's about the allegation that assets of the state have been looted by the outgoing government, and the governor issued a statement through his spokesman yesterday asking the members of panels and committees to track all looted public assets belonging to the state. At the inauguration of the swearing-in of the committee members, I think the deputy governor also talked about the fact that even in his own apartment, in his own official lodge, that almost everything is been looted. Can you give us an insight into what this asset is? I mean, what actually is the state of things as regards the asset of the state?
Yeah, thank you very much. I first of all want to appreciate the good people of Osun State. This is my first time of being here as your guest in this wonderful studio. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to Spring Television, Western Spring Television family, and our big Egmont for coming tops with this vision. May you continue to go stronger. Well, the looting spree, I will try as much as possible to refrain myself not to preempt the workings of the panel that have been saddled with the responsibility of going deeper and deeper into what the state might have been losing in that regard. I don't know. It sounds, it beats human logic for people to behave like that. Go to the, like you mentioned, to get to the deputy governor's lodge now, you hardly can find a pin there. Wouldn't know if the mindset all along has been to serve the good people of our state. I'm very sure it won't get to that, no matter what. Our people in APC, our brothers and sisters, so we consider them, are in court, for God's sake. They are claiming, they are hoping to reclaim and on stoning inexistent mandate. And I wonder what they want to come back to meet as a state, if what we had discovered is anything to go by. For me, it beats my own imagination as a person. So many things. It's the state asset, especially in government quarters, as we speak, is just like an arena that has been invaded, perhaps, by marauding armed robbers.
Mr. Bamiji, are you sure this is not about politics? I mean, as you politicians
you don't
paint the other party black, because in responding, the APC Director of Operations, who is the immediate past SC on political affairs to the governor, said that, you know, the government should be specific about these assets, and saying it's all lies, that it even appears that the government appears uncoordinated, and that there is no truth whatsoever in your allegations.
Yes, they can say whatever they want, but the truth is there, naked. The world today is a global village. Everybody can see what happened. You would have seen a viral video on social media, and very close by here in Noroli local government. That secretariat is almost empty. When the people of this of that locality, of that place visited the local government, almost empty. Everything almost looted. I wouldn't know why that.
I mean, does that not sound, you know, somehow ridiculous?
People are inspired, people are motivated to do certain things based on the kind of leadership they have at the time. No matter who is involved, and that is why the panel has been set up in that regard to look deep and see what actually happened, because it beats, like you're also wondering, I'm also wondering too, it beats human logic to discover what has happened in government quarters. You won't believe. Perhaps after this program or any at your own competitor, you can request that you visit that place. It's not as this is not a matter of politics. Any government official at any point in time, elected or whatever, they are supposed to be representative of the people, servant of the people. And so what we are doing is just to make sure that people are well served. There's no logic in the state as financially handicapped as we are in now trying to struggle to refix those things, or bring or having to buy new cars, or for ministries, for government officials, where while we should ordinarily have something to work with. No law asks government officials to just to reduce government assets, government properties, cars, or interior fittings in government houses, as their own property somehow. No law stipulates that. No law confer that kind of impunity on anyone. So government officials, anytime, to me, should be seen as servants of the people, and that is why we don't have a choice than to let the people know what where you remember. I've been at your radio studio sometimes, churning out warnings concerning this, because our people will say, what we have heard before we got in on Sunday was not even anything close to what we have discovered as of now. I tell you, it can make someone weep. That just because you lost an election, you want to reduce the state to nothing? I wonder, who says losing an election is the end of anybody's life? We have been out of government for 12 good years now, and we are here as the ruling party again. What tells the APC that they cannot come back, even if it is just in the next 20 years. There must be a state there to govern in the first instance before anybody would even aspire to lead such a state. And that is why that is our own concern. These properties, these assets we are talking about are not Senator Governor Ademola Adeleke's properties. It's not in want of any kind of asset you can think of in life. We all know that. So our cry is not about personal, anything personal. It's not about politics, as you mentioned. It's about the well-being of this state.
So aside the Deputy Governor's Lodge and the Orodu local government, the video that I said went viral, which other ones have you seen?
Government cars.
Government cars?
Officials of government have just eloped. I don't know what tells them that, or what will informed such decision to feel that, after all, we can just do this and get away with this. It is impossible for human comprehension that, yes, I'm in charge of this property, and you don't even know that that property in essence is not yours, does not belong to you in the real sense of it. You are, as at the time you are sitting, or you are occupying that seat, you are just people's servants. Anyway, the way we see ourselves. Why will you now confer those property to yourself as your own property? These are assets procured with the funds belonging to every else in this state. Yaoniru, Yalata. Everybody. When funds